That's a good question, Sammy. Like how did JJ McCarthy win the NFC Offensive Player of the Week? How many yards did he throw for? Like 120? But he's the NFC Player of the Week. You know what? This is one of the things that we talk about. And everybody thinks that we're lunatics. And they think that we're crazy. And we're thinking, take that thing down. Dude, look, and everybody thinks we're crazy. We always talk about there being a Bears tax. Like if you do something against the Bears, then all of a sudden it's magical. It is so much more. It's so much more than it actually is. I would even tell you that if the Bears had not drafted a quarterback last season, the other rookie quarterbacks, they wouldn't get the love that they do. But because they can compare it against the Bears quarterback, that's who it is. But, and I'm not saying anything, and listen, I like JJ McCarthy. I was promoting JJ McCarthy during the course of the offseason. I was telling everybody on NFL Fantasy Live, you need to have JJ McCarthy. I did not start JJ McCarthy on Monday. I said that I was not going to start him, but if you are not a Bears fan, you should have. I've been all about JJ McCarthy. So this is nothing against him. I think he's a great kid. I love everything about him. I wish he didn't play for the Vikings. I wish he played for the Titans or somebody like that. Sorry. But in all sincerity, that was your player of the week. Because what? Because he made a couple of plays in the fourth quarter and it came alive. And listen, he looks fine. He's good. Again, I don't want this to come off as haterade, but still, how can you not take this personal if you're a Bears fan? But you know what? We got other things to talk about. Sammy, let's just start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Rank.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's Wednesday night. You know what that means? That it's time for Take It to the Rank. A great night of NFL talk as we sit here talk about the Bears. Going to look back a little bit about the Minnesota Vikings, but I'd prefer to look forward and embrace the upcoming matchup against the Detroit Lions. And of course, there's some other things to be talking about as well. And to do all that, we're going to bring in our co-host from CHGO. He is my guy, my friend. It's Greg Braggs. How are we living, Greg? Can I talk about the phone call that we had yesterday, or did you want to keep that? Is that a private thing between us?
Are we talking about how I'm still trying to figure out how to pull myself off the mat after debilitating loss? I am here to report to you, Adam Rank, that I am now turning the page. It took me a day of sulking and some just going on Twitter and just airing out all the sludge within my soul. And right. I finally got it out of my system. I'm done belly aching. I'm done crying. It's 1 week. The Bears give themselves every opportunity to win. You can focus on the negatives and all the things they need to clean up, but there are some positives from this game as well that should leave you encouraged about things going forward. And at the end of the day, you got to trust in Ben Johnson. And the thing you know me, Adam, I did such a good job through the offseason sticking to my word of saying that I was going to be toned down. I was going to be patient. I wasn't going to put the cart before the horse. But then when you got a 17-6 lead to start the fourth quarter, all of a sudden that's when the true test gets laid at your feet. And so I've learned that I need to stick to what I said, and that is continue the course, stay patient, and trust in Ben Johnson.
You know, it's one of those situations, kind of like a hangover, where you're sitting there, you're wearing it. You go out there, you have, I know for you it's Taco Bell. For me, it's Del Taco. Mm-hmm. Go out there, have a big meal. Then you produce a deuce, flush it, and eventually you move on, take a shower, and you go on. That's exactly what you got to do, and that's what we need to do right now in Chicago.
We're producing a deuce here on the podcast.
We produced a deuce. I'm going out of order from the sheet though. Real quick, Sammy. I hope this doesn't throw you off too much, but can we put up Windy City Sports Cards? Can we put up their tweet? Because I want to address this too. This one will work too. Let's talk about Ben Johnson. On Caleb Williams' accuracy and footwork syncing up. There was a lot of good that came out of it when he was doing it properly. The ball came out on time. Thought he was delivering accurate footballs, but it's still not 100% all the time, and that's something that we're working through. I bring this up right now. So Courtney was relaying what Ben Johnson was talking about. We saw a lot of ex-quarterbacks, one of them being a Hall of Famer, one of them being a Hall of Fame personality. We're talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick, Kurt Warner. Both of them were like, hey, Caleb was fine. Like, obviously not his greatest hour, but there's not any reason to be concerned. Where are you with Caleb Williams right now? Again, you're expressing patience, but where are you right now with Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously when you watch a game like that and you see the missed throws and the inaccuracy and some of the things that you saw last year, and you were really hoping to see some bigger improvement. Certainly, hey, you only get 17 of these. So as much as we want to stay patient, at the same time, man, you got to come out and show that you've had some improvements. But I'll remind you that the Bears last year didn't score a touchdown on an opening drive in any game they played last year. And they came out on Monday Night Football and did that. So there's improvement, right? And another thing you saw a lot of last year that I thought plagued Caleb Williams was trying to do too much, trying to hit, hold the ball too long to hit the home run. How many times did you see him take what the defense gives him or check the ball down and make the easier throw just to keep the chains moving or, just to try to get in a rhythm, especially early on? I think you saw enough of that there where I think they've really drilled into Caleb like, hey, you don't always have to take the risk pass. And so I think there was enough of those things there. And then in terms of the accuracy, when you talk about that, Ben's talked about it time and again. It starts with his feet. And let's just be honest, his feet were erratic. And when he wasn't operating cleanly, it felt like his whole mind and body, not just his feet, everything felt erratic. And so Caleb Williams, I think, just has to get more comfortable within this offense. They got to get to the line of scrimmage and have cleaner operations. They had to burn a couple timeouts to not get a delay game. And I think if they can do that, I think that's going to slow everything down for Caleb to where he can slow himself down and ultimately slow his feet down, and that's going to help his accuracy downfield. Caleb Williams can make all the throws. He can make any throw on a football field. And so when you see him miss to DJ Moore on fourth down, and then you see him miss the exact same throw in the second half in the fourth quarter to Cole Kmet, or at the end of the third quarter to Cole Kmet, those are layup throws. He cannot miss those, but he is fully capable of making those throws. So how do we get him to a point where he can calm himself to cleanly make those throws consistently? I think that just comes down to having cleaner operations and getting them, settled in and working through this offense. And I also think running the ball is certainly important as well, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But ultimately, it just comes down to Caleb settling down a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of the things. I don't know if we talked about this on the air, off the air. We had it in our conversations talking about anybody who's played the game of golf knows that sometimes when you're locked in the first couple of holes, everything's going great. It can eventually get away from you. And I think that's what happened with Caleb is he started hurrying himself. When things are not going well, he started to hurry himself. And that is a problem that he needs to fix. And I really wish, and this is one of the things that we thought when this coaching staff was coming over, you would want it to be Ben Johnson, but he's a head coach and he's got a lot of things to rely on. You need somebody who's there who is a calming presence, who's like, bro, you're rushing everything. Settle down. Tempo. I was playing around a couple of weeks ago, and one of my friends was like, the one thing I want you to work on right here, your only swing thought should be tempo. And I think somebody needs to do that on the bench and be like, hey, Caleb, tempo. It's all about tempo, bro. Just don't worry about it. Just the tempo. When I watched when I watched JJ McCarthy running a touchdown, one of the first people who was out there was Josh McCown. And I'm like, you know what? I wish we had somebody like that. I don't think it's too late. Like, let's go hire Chase Daniel just to sit on the sideline, just to sit there and be like, bro, temple, or do this, or don't forget about your footwork or anything like that. You don't want to overstimulate him with a lot of things to think about. But if you could get Caleb to relax, be in his tempo, make a good decision, make a good throw. Because I felt like on that first drive, he had great tempo. He was making great decisions. I know, and like I was driving home, so I was listening to Kurt Warner, and Kurt Warner was like stoked on him, like, this is great. Listening to Troy Aikman, and when Troy Aikman starts talking about like, he's taking too many easy throws, and I'm like, dog, do you remember when you played in the NFL, Troy Aikman? Talking about a guy, like every single one of your throws went to Jay Novacek. You didn't start throwing the ball to Michael Irvin until you got hurt. Steve Berline took over and went to Michael Irvin all the time. And then when you returned in the 1992 season, then you started throwing it to Michael Irvin. So don't get on Caleb Williams' case about this. Like, don't forget who you were. It's like if Corey Pavin was commenting on the Masters and was being like, I don't think Rory drives it far enough. Like, who are you? You're a great player, but I think Caleb was doing the right thing. And everybody talked about it being like, well, his first drive was scripted. It's like, bro, the second drive got blown up because of some dumb penalties. The third drive went all the way down the field again, and it should have been rewarded in points. And the hubris of Ben Johnson took 3 points off the board because he wanted to go for it. You're at the stadium. Were you one of those fans who was screaming for Ben Johnson to go for it on 4th and 3?
Well, after the tailgate was over, we came back to the studio here. I was still screaming at the TV, and I was definitely torn in the moment, but I will admit that ultimately I signed off on the 4th down decision to go for it. I'm an aggressive person by nature, so I had no issue with it in the moment. Everything ends up becoming results based when you make your opinions. They didn't get it, so then it's woulda, coulda, shoulda. But ultimately, they did draw up the right play, and it was a pitch and catch opportunity to DJ Moore that just wasn't executed. So it's hard to say that it was the wrong decision because it should have been completed, and it wasn't. So, I know Caleb, that's when Ben says he had 3 or 4 that he wish he had back. I promise you that's one of them.
That is definitely one of them. I know this, again, I know I rely way too much on either AYSO or golf analogies. But again, this is one of those things where you're like, it's 60 yards and you're like, I know I should bump and run this, but I'm going to try to hit a flop shot here. That's exactly what he did. And then he chili dips it. You got to know the personnel, and you got to know like what's going, like, I don't know, in that situation with an opportunity to get the 10 points, because it's fun as it would have been to go get a touchdown. You're up 14-3. Like, you're never going to be disappointed walking away with points. You shouldn't be, at least. So for me, I think that they should have taken the 3 right there. I was screaming in my car, like, just take the bleepity bleep field goal. Just go do it that way. It would have been 10-3 at that point, because if I'm not mistaken.
And you can say that, but at the same time, the field goal Cairo Santos made was shaky. Then he missed one, and then he couldn't get the touchback. So, when you talk about the results, I mean, Cairo doesn't always give you that much. I mean, you got to make your field goals. So when you send the field goal unit out, the expectations are going to make the kick. But at the same time, it's no guarantee the way he was kicking on Monday night that he was going to make anything.
Yeah, and Eddie P just signed with the 49ers, I saw too. I'm like, oh man, I loved Eddie P.
Yeah, and I think Cairo, just the way Ben wasn't messing around didn't mix words when being critical of the kicker. So, everybody's like talking about his Caleb on the hot seat here. Cairo needs a pretty big bounce back performance on Sunday in Detroit, or I think he might be handed his walking papers.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things too that Cairo, I thought, was always one of the more automatic kickers. He wasn't great from 55 plus, which is now actually starting to become a problem because these kickers are now routinely making them from 55 plus. And it's like, we kind of need that weapon. And it's something that we need to go out and look. And I've been tracking this because I am still a big believer in using kickers in fantasy football. And speaking of fantasy football, why win your fantasy league when you can rule it? Yeah, we're talking about Crown Champs right now. And Crown Champs just dropped the hottest thing fantasy's ever seen. A real handcrafted premium championship crown. It's just $2.99 a month per person. And listen, you go to crownchampscompany.com, talking about crownchampscompany.com. Listen, go there, sign up, rack up points, win weekly challenges, get voted as the king or queen trash talker, and you will unlock all these great opportunities to get some merch. We're talking about robes, we're talking about scepters, we're talking about rings, we're talking about all these cool things. That's crownchampscompany.com. Check them out. Listen, fantasy football just got royal. Go to crownchampscompany.com. Want to touch on, speaking of Caleb, as we wrap this up, do you have that note from our friends at Windy City Sports Cards? Yeah, this was a PSA from Mike at Windy City Sports Cards. PSA, if you clowns want to ditch your Caleb Williams jerseys, don't torch them. Slide into the DMs and we'll give them away so a real fan can rock it. You guys are out of pocket right now. I swear to Great Caesar's ghost himself. The amount of people who are just like, I give up. We're about like, we can't go through this. We can't go through this every year. Like, I'm sorry to tell you guys, Caleb Williams is going to get at least 3 more years unless something extremely terrible happens. He's our quarterback. And you need to get used to it. And we just need to figure out how to do it. I don't know. Why are people burning jerseys? It's the dumbest thing ever. They're not cheap either.
It used to be a fashionable thing when in the early days of social media that was like something that was like the yearly viral video was it's been at least 8 years since a relevant jersey burning. Like we've moved past that, stage and to do it 18 games into a player's career just shows how much that has jumped the shark. It has no meaning when you're burning a jersey 18 games into someone's career. So I would encourage everyone to not give people like that the attention they're looking for, because ultimately that's why it's jumped the shark. Like, do you remember the first video where the guy like broke his TV in a fit of rage?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Well, then everybody just started like finding the cheapest TV in their house that they're going to get rid of anyway, and breaking it up so they can get some social media clout. So don't fall for the bait and switch. The guy probably has 4 other Caleb Williams jerseys, and he was just looking to get some engagement, and he got it.
100%. It's funny too, because I was at Savers the other day, and they had a little flat screen for sale. I'm like, I might buy this in case I ever need to do one of those videos of like, I'm done and I'm going to break a TV. Although I would do it the other way of like, if we had won, like, let's say we had won on a Hail Mary or something, be like, hey, this was me. Like, I can't believe we lost, and then break it. And then my friend walk up and be like, Bears actually won the game and you missed it. Something like that would at least be somewhat different, or maybe a little bit better. But it's a dumb trend. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I truly believe that the first noted instance of this burning the jersey thing was LeBron leaving Cleveland for Miami, which was a legitimate reason. Like that was it. Like, okay, I get it. Like that was extreme enough. If you want to burn your LeBron jersey, I get it. It's kind of like the kids that rush the court during basketball games. Like, I find it embarrassing now. Like back in the day, court storming was reserved for somebody like Cal State Fullerton beating UNLV, who was like the best team, like Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara would play UNLV on Big Monday, and UNLV would be the number 1 team in the country. Santa Barbara would win a game, and all those fans are on the court. Like that meant something. Now it's like, hey, Florida State beat Duke. And you're like, bro, you're a BCS, or what was then a BCS school. Like, you have the money. If you suck, it's your own fault because you have all the resources to be good. These small schools, If Appalachian State's fans want to run on the field after beating Michigan, that's apropos. I'm glad that we're aligned on that, by the way.
Yeah,
that
100%. The court storming has jumped the shark as well. You can't be a blue blood like for IU, Indiana basketball. For the long time, they had their hand on Purdue for decades. And then, they started beating Purdue a few times on their home court, and their fans are storming the court. And it's like, guys, you can't – that's when you lose your blue blood status. Maybe you already didn't have it before, but you definitely lost it the minute you stormed the court, because now you're saying that you have no shot of beating the team across from you. And when you do, you have to celebrate it like you've won a Super Bowl. And so I am 100% with you. It's the kids are having fun. Yeah, but like you said, it gets watered down. Then just run on the field after every game, no matter what, just so you guys can have a little party out there. But at the end of the day, it's not because you've beaten anyone of significance, because it's watered down, period.
It's lame now. It is actually ridiculous. By the way, Purdue changed their court, right? You guys don't have the elevated court anymore where the benches are below the floor.
Correct.
Are you even old enough to remember that? I guess.
I am old enough to remember it. Yeah, sure.
Do you remember Gene Kading? Like, were you alive when he was the coach? I don't know. You're a young man.
He comes to every game. He's still doing his thing. Nice guy.
I love it. I love to hear it. I'm glad he's doing well. Let's talk about Ben Johnson. He's going to be returning to Detroit to face his former team. Ben Johnson met with the media today or yesterday or one of the days. I got a clip of this. Sammy, can we roll that sound, Sammy? Or not? I'll just fill. Maybe we don't have it. It doesn't. Listen, I sometimes throw some things in the rundown. Well, anyways, he's talking about going back to Detroit. I know that when we were doing our preseason schedule, I didn't put that. Are you sure, Sammy?
Are you questioning Sammy? You didn't put it. Sammy said you didn't put it.
I stole it from the bar room.
You got to take a page from Ben Johnson, because all he did the last 2 days was take personal accountability for the things the team didn't do right, because the buck stops with the head coach. And look at what you're doing right now. Don't fall into the Matt Eberflus trap. Be like Ben Johnson. Don't even if Sammy's wrong, you just got to take it on the chin for the team.
How unusual was it? Because I was on the after hour with Jim Rome moments ago, and we were talking about this, about why it's different. Because if this would have been Matt Nagy, he would have gone up there and been like, you know what? We're trying to figure out the whys. We're trying to figure out the whys of what's going on, all this stuff. Matt Eberflus would have blamed somebody else. When was it that Matt Eberflus finally took accountability? Was it after the Cardinals game last year, or was it Detroit? Like, it was way late.
Right.
So what do you make of Ben Johnson going out there and actually giving some accountability to what has been going on? Because it has been refreshing to see a coach being like, I could have done that better.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think he's really instilled a leadership quality this team has sorely needed. Through last year, you could see that. And, talking with Adam Hogue today on our CHGO Bears show, like, I think he made a great point. Like, hey, I think it holds a little more water when you are going to be critical of your players and hold them accountable for certain things, but also hold yourself accountable. If you don't hold yourself accountable, then how much weight can these players truly put into what you're trying to say to them? And so I think that Ben has really kind of owned that, and you see where he talks about, I should have done some things differently on that final kickoff. He's not yet. Should it have been a touchback? Sure. But he can also say, there's a part of the process that he needs to take accountability for as well. And, he owned the delay of game just early in the game where they had to burn a timeout to avoid it. And so then he also, I think the biggest thing from today's press conference where he said, where he was asked about Kyle Monangai, and no rushing attempts for Kyle Monangai, only 9 snaps. He had a catch. And he was asked about getting Kyle Monangai more involved. He said, I got to run the ball more. We had less than 20 total carries, run calls on the game. And so I think that's a big one right there. And, when he talked about, I just couldn't get into a rhythm on the run game and how I was calling plays. Like at the end of the day, you just got to get into a rhythm by calling more plays, and he acknowledged that today. So I think that's where the patience lies, right? It's not just a patience for Caleb. It's not just a patience for the offense and the team in general. It's also for the head coach. Like, he knows what he's doing, but there's a learning curve, even the challenge. I actually don't fault him for the challenge. I think it was a good challenge. It was worth it in the moment, because it's always about, is the juice worth the squeeze? If you don't get the challenge, you lose the timeout. It's got to be something that's worth it. And like, sometimes you'll see a coach challenge a play when it's second and one and they get the first down. No need to challenge that. They're going to get the first down anyway, more than likely. But when it's a play like that where there's a turnover that could flip the field and now you're inside the 10, and you're if you're not sure, you got to press the officials to see if they're sure. And so to me, I didn't mind that challenge at all. I know a lot of people hindsight say, well, to me, I saw a hand punch on ball, and I could see a scenario or a world where that should be ruled a fumble, but I'm no master of the rule book either.
What was the final decision on that? Was that the ball is an extension of the body? Is that what they were saying?
I
literally
never got clarification on it, but if that's the case, I don't agree with that. If you're on the ground and you're starting to get back up and they don't touch your jersey, your body, and the first contact is on that ball, well, then that ball is now loose. That the ball should never be an extension of the body. That doesn't make sense to me personally. It's
really dumb. It is really like not as smart. Like, I don't know who puts that in. I don't know. It sounds like something the NFL would do. Be like, oh, now the ball's actually. I don't know how that would make sense, because you're. I don't know. Because like, if that's true, then if you're trapping the ball on a catch, then that would mean it's a catch, because the ball is part of the body. You know what I'm saying? Like that. How would that not, like, you know what I'm saying? Like the Dez caught it play. So it should have been a catch, because at that point, while it was that's part of Dez Bryant's body. I feel like, and again, the rules expert who is there in the booth is like, oh yeah, you can punch the ball. Like, no, idiot. We're Bears fans. We know what the peanut punch is. Like, we don't lecture me on if you can punch a ball or not. We know. Is he down? Just explain it. And I still have not got an explanation. I will get that tomorrow on NFL Fantasy Live and bring that to you. I will email somebody right now. Because that was one, again, like so many things that go. And I know this is, it feels like we're making excuses for Caleb, because you're like, that could have been a game changer. Kurt Warner said himself, like, that should not have been a pass interference on the Aaron Jones play where a ball's underthrown by 5 yards and the guy stops and runs into it. Jalen Naylor falling and tripping Tyreek Stevenson, and then somehow he gets the pit. Like, that should have been pass interference on Jalen Naylor, if anything, because he was flopping around on the ground like he was a Brazilian soccer player, and Tyreek Stevenson's trying to make a play. If anything, like, I know you can't do it because you would be reprimanded, I'm sure, but like, I would love to throw a challenge play. Like, I know that you're only going to make it worse, but knowing the way the game was going to eventually end, just to like call out the referees on their stupidity. Like, I want to challenge this holding call on Darnell Wright, and then, oh, you can't do that. Be like, you should be able to, because it's dumb.
Well, like in minor league baseball now, you've got, the strike zone where the computer will, you can challenge a strike zone call. And that right there is an example of the umps being held accountable. And I know that's eventually going to make its way to Major League Baseball. And I know a lot of fans will be welcoming that with open arms. I think it's a little harder in football in terms of like pass interference. I think they did try, because it becomes subjective and it's just hard to kind of parse through that. But you're right. I mean, and that was on third down with the pass interference on Jalen Naylor. And then obviously the biggest thing that I got hung up on for over 24 hours was the holding call on Darnell Wright. I mean, that was egregious, and it was a game-changing moment. And my friend shared the statistic with me that had they gotten the first down, they're down to the 12-yard line, and at that point they would have had a 94% chance of winning the football game, and clearly were on their way momentum-wise to score a touchdown. And it would have been a much-needed touchdown drive in the second half where the Vikings had certainly, kind of thrown the kitchen sink, blitzing like 60% of the time on the Bears, and they responded in that moment. And instead it goes backwards. The Bears don't, respond to that adversity well, which they certainly hold their own accountability to. But it'll always drive me crazy what the alternate universe, if that holding call doesn't happen, and what that looks like. And maybe the Bears score a touchdown there, more than likely, in my opinion, and we're having a different conversation today. But that's football, and that's what keeps us coming back every week.
It's one of those things, too, like nobody's burning a Caleb jersey at this point. Nobody's talking about that anymore. No. JJ McCarthy is not winning NFC Player of the Year. I know that Caleb wouldn't have won it, but JJ McCarthy would not have. And, I think it's fair, too, as we sit here and we speculate, you're like, this is a really interesting time of the game for this particular penalty to happen right here at this point, for people who might or might not want to see a closer game than one we were about to see on Monday Night Football. These are questions that I would love people to kind of investigate. Be like, why was this penalty called? And I think the thing of it is we're sitting here being like, hey, can we challenge a call? I will tell you with 100% certainty that if there was a challenge system in the NFL and the Bears had challenged that holding call, there is a 100% chance that call would have been upheld, because they do not like to overturn a call that is on the field. Rarely is it ever going to be changed. So if the NFL ever did do that, baseball is a little bit more difficult because you have the strike zone box and it's clear as day. Like, you take the subjectiveness out of it. If you still leave some sort of subjectiveness to an NFL official, they'll always favor the NFL official. They will never be like, hey, no, this is, I don't know what the common sense thing is. And it has worked out in our favor. Because I think any Detroit fan will be like, what about the Calvin Johnson play? I remember in the moment being like, that's a ridiculous call. That is the dumbest thing. Talking about the ball not being a part of the body or whatever. That was stupid. And I'm like, all right, we got away with it. I still celebrated. So what is it? Who am I to judge right here? By the way, game coming up on Sunday. We were talking about Ben Johnson returning to Detroit. I don't know who is making the trip to Pontiac, Michigan. Wait, it's not Pontiac anymore. It's actually Detroit. I don't know who's making the trip to Detroit, but if you're staying local, let me ask you a question. Where is your game day party going to be? Because if you are a real Chicago sports fan, and I'm talking about the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, Fire, you need to be watching the games at Twisted Shamrock. They've got monster TVs in the private party room, in the main bar, and outside on their stellar patio. They've got drink specials, rowdy fans, and I might say the best old-fashioned in the entirety of the Midwest. Listen, it's Twisted Shamrock, where Chicago sports come together. If you are looking for a place to get rowdy on Sunday to watch the Bears and the Lions, go to Twisted Shamrock right down there in the, I think it's south side of Jace is a good way to put it. I don't know. I don't want to say it as a local, but what do you think about this week? Ben Johnson had talked about going back to Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown was on his podcast this week, I believe it was, talking about Ben Johnson's reaction and what it's going to be like. Do we have the sound of Amon-Ra St. Brown talking about Ben's return to Detroit?
It's going to be so crazy, I promise you. It's going to be so electric. But as soon as Ben walks in there, we're booing him. I don't give a we all booing him.
Yeah, he said it's going to be lit. I'm not going to lie. And I'm here for it, for sure.
I just want to be a fly on the wall in his freaking meeting room, bro. How is he as a head coach? Ben, that is not you, dog. I know you. Stop acting like this, Ben. Bro, I want to be a fly on the wall for one meeting. Just one.
Nah, bro. You done with Ben now, bro. It's our turn, bro.
It's your turn. Yep. Y'all got it, man.
Do you think this is something that actually works in the Bears' favor? that you can use a us against the world type of mentality. Chicago against everyone. I don't think there's no city that's ever used that phrase before. I would love Chicago to adopt the mantra Chicago against everyone, because no city has ever thought to ever use that phrase.
Never. That certainly has never jumped the shark. Never mind the fact that we do sell shirts on our store that say Chicago versus everybody. Never mind that fact. But regardless, I do think that it is interesting. You know, obviously, Amon-Ra has been talking about Ben Johnson all offseason. He misses him dearly. That is clear as day. We get it. We appreciate it. It's actually very encouraging for us as Bears fans how much you miss him. But the season started, my guy. You know, it's time to let go. And maybe this is the week that you're going to have to fully accept that. But I feel bad for you, and I know you miss him. And maybe John Morton, you know, will find his way to your heart one day the way Ben Johnson clearly has. But for now, you're going to just have to accept the fact that our Chicago Bears, we got Ben over here now. And you know what's coming. And when this team gets their feet underneath them and Ben Johnson's got this team clicking on all cylinders in the way that he wants, Amon-Ra knows what's coming. And, hey, when your contract is up, if you think you want to come on over to Chicago, maybe we'll have some room for you, but we'll see. It's no promises.
Yeah, we don't really need a wide receiver right now. I think we're okay, but you know, we're fine. But I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a festive atmosphere. I think the Bears need something like that too. I think there is something about being on the road, especially in a hostile environment, that will help galvanize this team. And I hope that, you know, this is an opportunity for Caleb and all the guys to show some leadership and kind of go out there and embrace everything. You know, one of the things, and again, I know that I was talking about JJ McCarthy to start the show. I really do like JJ McCarthy. I've liked JJ McCarthy. I've been a fan of JJ McCarthy. And so when you hear the stories about how he was pumping up the team, like, where else would you rather be? I would like to see the Bears take that kind of reaction here. Going into Chicago, rally around Ben. They're going to be on his butt right from the get-go. It is going to be a very hostile environment. The fans are going to be riding him right as the game starts. I would love to see this to be something that fuels the Bears' fire. And if it doesn't fuel your fire, then maybe you're not on the right team. But I would love to see this as something that helps push the team forward. Do we have another clip from Amon-Ra St. Brown? By the way, if I didn't tell you before you get to that, the Ben Johnson thing I was looking for earlier, that was my fault. I added it to the sheet and then forgot to tell Sammy and Anello. So that is my fault.
There it is.
So to take a page from Ben Johnson, that was my culpability.
Yep.
That was my mistake.
Yep.
I need to own that. That is my fault. I made a mistake. No, don't complain. Don't explain. That was my fault. Do we have the other Amon-Ra St. Brown's clip though?
There's two. They have to, you know, we all got to adjust and get on the same page. It's only week one. So when Ben first started, it wasn't all glitz and glamour to start with. He built what we ended up doing last year. So I feel like the new coordinators that we have are just fine. Guys that are saying fire so-and-so. It's like, bro, it's week one. Like, we took a loss. Are you over here telling the Chiefs to fire whoever their offensive coordinators are, or their defensive coordinators? Like, they obviously wanted to win the game. Everyone wants to win week one.
Hey, Amon-Ra, their offensive coordinator is Matt Nagy. You can fire him. I think he was talking to you, though. And if not talking to you, Greg, he was talking to everybody else. The week one overreaction is getting a little too out of control. This is I know that we didn't do. I did this with Nick yesterday, where I played the clip of Dan Campbell, but it does serve its it does make a point. And Dan Campbell had noted that when they started with Ben Johnson in 2022, that team started 1-6 and found a way to turn it around. Again, I know the way people react, and everything's instantaneous, and everybody's got to know everything right away. But at the same time, like, people just need to chill the bleep out. Yeah.
1,000%. I mean, I reported it. Many others on the Bears beat reported it throughout training camp. Like, hey guys, from everything we've seen, Ben Johnson and this coaching staff are the real deal. They have a lot of talent on this roster, but it's going to take time for this to come together, and it's going to require patience. And there was pushback from some people out there that's like, hey, well, the mistakes are going to happen at camp. That's when they're supposed to happen. And, they're throwing a lot at them. And, yeah, every team has pre-snap penalties at camp. That's normal. And then when week one happens and some of the things that we saw at camp translate to the week one of the regular season, now we want to sound off all the alarms. Come on, guys. Everybody, not just forget what the media was saying. Ben Johnson told you throughout training camp that this was what was happening. And so the idea that they were going to have all of this cleaned up in the first game of the season against arguably the toughest defense they'll play all year and probably inarguably the toughest defensive coordinator they'll play all year is unrealistic. And so I just think we all have to take a step back and acknowledge those things and say, hey, all right, this is the starting point. This is where they're at. And these are the things they need to get better at. Let's see how the year progresses. It's not all going to happen overnight. But yes, it does become stressful as the games tick off and you lose. And I understand that. I was just as upset as anybody else in that fourth quarter. But at the same time, for Ben Johnson's sake, if you believe in Ben Johnson and you're happy he's here, then you're not going to railroad what he's trying to build 4 quarters into his coaching career here in Chicago. Let the man do his job.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. It is, it's interesting too, because everything that's been going on, and obviously they're going to be like, hey, look at what JJ McCarthy did in essentially his first start in the NFL. JJ McCarthy joined a team that won 14 games last season, a team that allowed the 5th fewest points in the league last year and then got better on the defensive line. That was the team that JJ McCarthy was joining, a team that has been, that Kevin McCarthy has been there. Was it his 4th year now? 4th year? An established head coach who is quickly becoming one of the best in the game. That's the situation that JJ McCarthy was walking into in week 1. And it wasn't until the Bears gave him a little bit of wiggle room. The officials sort of guided him on that first field goal as well. So let's not act like that was a wide-eyed rookie coming into a brand new situation with some underdog. We're talking about a team that was competing for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC last year that had won 14 games. Jaden Daniels plays for a team that has the oldest roster in the NFL. Like, there's different situations. We can stop comparing him to the other quarterbacks. Caleb Williams is our quarterback. And nothing is going to change that. And this even goes for you who are talking about Tyson Bagent. You can stop that S right now as well. So for me, I'd look at this situation as Caleb's going to go out there and get another opportunity to prove himself. This is going to be a work in progress. This is like going to Golf Tech or anything like that. You're just looking for the incremental improvements. And by the way, as Greg brought up earlier in the show, scoring on an opening drive is a massive improvement of anything. Like, once we scored, like I had even said this before during the offseason. I said, if we go 3 and out on our first drive, I'm going to fill my pockets full of wrenches and walk into the Pacific Ocean. That was actually my biggest thing of like, I don't want to go 3 and out on the first drive. And right at that point, I'm like, okay, we won. Obviously at the end of the third quarter, I actually wanted to go out and actually win a game.
Yeah.
That's something the Bears are going to need to learn to do. But let's look at, let's go to some of these questions who some of our great fans have been putting out there. Robert Nash had weighed in earlier, and he said, if Caleb fixes his footwork throw to the left, which caused those overthrows, he is nails. It's an easy fix. Robert Nash, thank you so much for weighing in. And I'm gonna agree with you right there. People are like, how do you fix that? It's the same way of again fixing anything like free throw shooters. Remember, like you think of technical things that players have overcome in the past. I remember Tiki Barber when he first came to the NFL. fumbled the ball like virtually every time he touched it. And Tom Coughlin gave a modest fix. I think with Ben Johnson, they're just going to have to work on the footwork, making sure you're back on your heels or whatever it is. They have the science. I don't. I think that's going to be a lot easier than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to my buddy Justin yesterday, and I thought he had a good analogy. And I think
Justin Fields,
not Justin Fields. My good friend Justin. He's a big baseball fan, so I think he'll appreciate this analogy. You know, he kind of likened it to a young reliever that can throw 100 miles plus, but can't find the strike zone. You know, and I think that's a good analogy for where Caleb is right now. He just wants to fire it in there, and he's got to learn to slow down a little bit to control that fastball and then work your way up to then trying to hit it with that kind of velocity. But you got to have your fundamentals and your technique down first to slow everything down and make sure those are right. And then once you've honed your craft with that and you through repetition, that becomes second nature. Then you start upping the velocity to where you want to fire it in there and try to pinpoint everything. But at first you got to slow it down to build it back up.
Alex Ramos says our running back room is a train wreck. Alex, I would actually push back on this. I think that DeAndre Swift can be effective. I think Kyle Monangai, we haven't seen what he's going to be able to do. I think, again, it goes back to what Greg was talking about when Ben Johnson said, listen, I'm not calling enough run plays. I think it's difficult for us to establish the run if we don't run the ball.
Well, I think Minnesota also deserves some credit. You know, I get we're all very disappointed the Bears lost, and they should have won that game. I don't think that just because everything we've said in terms of being patient and having an open mind to the things from an operation standpoint that aren't going to happen overnight, all the flaws they had in that game, they still should have won it. And so I don't think anybody needs to back off of that fact. And the Bears have to own that and face that and try to respond to that here this next week. But that doesn't mean that we can't also give the Vikings credit. And I thought their defense, specifically in the run game, was very, very good. And DeAndre Swift, I thought in that third quarter drive that I continue to come back to where Darnell Wright had the holding penalty, they had a response drive in that moment that could have sealed the game. And DeAndre Swift, if you go back and watch it, he established a run on that drive in a pretty impressive manner, lowering his shoulder, getting the first downs, and that's ultimately all we can ask from him. He has the ability. He's not Saquon Barkley, but at the same time, I think he's got enough talent, but gotta hand the ball off more and want to see more out of Kyle Monangai. You got to give him an opportunity. Can't say the running back room's a train wreck when Kyle Monangai didn't get one handoff yesterday.
Yeah, we don't even know what he's going to be able to do. So I think we need a little bit more time. Hassan asks you, do you think Ben Johnson has scaled the offense back to fit a quarterback that can't understand a playbook?
Well, full disclosure, Hassan is my friend who is when I'm on Twitter Spaces, he's on it daily, and he's actually a very intelligent football guy, and I enjoy talking football with him very much. So he's pressing me right now. And so the question is, he's pressing me to see what my response will be. And the answer, Hassan, is no. If you watch that first game, I don't think Ben Johnson scaled anything back. And that's evident to me by the amount of penalties they had. He's saying, this is my offense. This is what we need to do. We need to have motion. We need to have cadence. And this is how we're going to run our offense. And if you go back and watch what they did last year and how much they scaled everything back from, a pre-snap operation standpoint, and then the cadence that they reportedly scaled back, Ben's not allowing that. Ben's saying, no, I'm not going to be doing you any favors by taking these things out to make it easier on you, because all it does then is make everything easier on the defense. And so that's why this is a work in progress right now, to get them to a level of execution that they need to get to weaponize the cadence and the pre-snap motions and everything they're doing at the line of scrimmage. And so ultimately it just comes down to Caleb Williams and this offense finding a way to learn these things and execute these things. But I don't think Ben Johnson's scaling anything back or spoon-feeding anyone. He's going to make sure he's going to set a standard and say, this is how it needs to be done, and press the players to do that.
When Jonas jumps offside, is that Caleb's fault? Like, I just saw a guy who is new to a team, new to a quarterback jumping offside. But of course, all the lava slingers want to blame Caleb for that.
Well, I mean, I think the cadence thing is the answer to that, though. So we don't know for sure unless you're in that room. You don't know in terms of the amount of false starts, whose specific fault was what. It can be the offensive lineman jumped too early and got, but at the same time, I think we do have to acknowledge with the cadence issues that Ben Johnson has talked about this week and how they need to get better at those things. I think that's a tell that there is a very strong likelihood that some of these false starts were on Caleb Williams. And so I think we just have to embrace that and hope for Caleb Williams to improve that here this coming Sunday.
Melon Smasher says, pause the all 22 tape at the top of the dropbacks. Everyone is open. Ben J shredded Flores defense and did the same with the Lions. He can dial up explosive plays, probably only below McVay right now. Sauce. I think there is some truth to that. And I know that everybody is drawing the parallels between this and they're pausing plays that Justin Fields was not seeing as well. But again, you got to give him an opportunity. Jesus, it's his first game, a first real NFL game with this playbook. Like, if he's missing these throws in year 3, then we can sit here and absolutely have this discussion. But good Lord, give him a little bit of time. Like, this is the kind of stuff I feel sometimes putting all this stuff into the hands of the fans is a little too much. And one of the things too, and I know that everybody was pointing to that miss in the corner to DJ Moore. I love the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick came out today and was like, there's 2 quarterbacks in the league that make that throw. And it's Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Everybody else misses it. And I think and I love when people come up like, yeah, but you're like, you're yeah, butting Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think that we need to show a little bit of patience here.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a slippery slope to look at the all 22 and try to decipher, where he should be going with the ball without being in the room and knowing what Ben Johnson is saying is where the progressions start and where they end. So I think that is something that we all have to acknowledge. It's also not rocket science. So when guys are open, you can say, hey, hey, this guy was open. How come they didn't go there? But let's not put everything in finite, granite and say, well, this was definitely the case. I think we always have to keep an open mind that there are a lot of moving parts to an offense that we don't know unless you're in that room. You can be, a Hall of Fame offensive lineman and understand the game at a very high level, but unless you're in that room, you only know half the puzzle, and you understand the foundational rules to playing the game, but you don't know the rules of a team-specific playbook and what that specific offensive coordinator or coach in general is asking their players to do. And so, I think if everyone – that's why, if you watch, a guy like QB School, I respect or Tim Jenkins, they'll always kind of preface what they're breaking down by saying, look, I don't know what they're telling them here, but this is what so as long as you show me that you can acknowledge that half of it, then feel free to put your opinion out there. But when you start saying things with defiant, this is exactly what it is, and there's no gray area, then you kind of lose me a little bit.
No, I get you. I kind of agree with that all the way around. Or I do. I don't kind of. I do agree. Love Bearsall. When will the refs be held accountable or at least admit to a bad call? That never. They are they're without reproach, and you can't even argue with it. When I coach AYSO, they always tell us you cannot say a single word to a youth official. That'll get you banned. That'll get you thrown out. You got to go take ref courses. That's the way the NFL treats their officials. They never will come out and be like, oh yeah, they missed it. I would find it more acceptable if they're like, yeah, that probably should have called that on Darnell Wright. I know that when you have the Hall of Famers saying that, it makes me feel a little bit better. But at the same time, it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of accountability from the league itself. Love Bears all comes back again. The Lions pass rush did look that good, but will the Bears be able to handle it? I thought by and large, for everything that we're talking about, I don't think that we're not sitting here complaining about Braxton Jones. I think that there were some problems, but like this is one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. One of the best defenses. Greg was talking about one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. And the offensive line, like I really didn't have an issue with a lot of, I mean, listen, you give up some sacks. That's going to happen against the Vikings. I thought the offensive line played pretty well.
Yeah, just like Caleb Williams isn't going to make every throw. An offensive line isn't going to have perfect protection on every play. And so Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson got beat a few times, and I'm sure they want a better effort here next week. But, yeah, I think that is kind of lost in the shuffle of the game on Monday night is that Braxton, all this worry about Dio Odengbo and Braxton Jones, and now we're talking about, Montez Sweat and some, Caleb Williams. Like we kind of went into this game having fears about those guys, and they stepped up. So let's see how things progress here this week.
And one final comment from Scottish Bear. Hit the like button for Rank, people. Thank you, Scottish Bear, for putting that out there. Really appreciate that. Yeah, hit the like button, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Actually, I do want to get to your other question. I know that we talked about it before, but it bears repeating again for anybody who's just joining the stream. Guys, you have concerns with Santos. Yeah, of course we do. One of the things that we need out of a kicker, you got to be able to kick from 55 plus. It's just the way that the game is right now. I think that's something. I don't think Ben's going to be effing around with our kicking game.
I know Shane, our good friend Shane Marsall, has been defending Cairo throughout the offseason. He keeps pointing out, I think he's 15 of 18 of kicks over 50 yards. I don't know what his stats are over 55 yards, but he keeps pointing to that. All I can say about Cairo is for whatever reason, whether statistically this lines up with my vibe or whether this statement is fair or not, when Cairo lines up for a field goal, I'm never confident. I'm always
is that right?
I can barely watch him kick it because I'm nervous. I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's any data that can back up that science, but all I know is when I'm watching games and they send out the field goal unit and Cairo's kicking that ball, I'm nervous. That's all I can say.
I think I agree. I would love to be able to just have a kicker who's automatic. And I think, listen, it's not something – this is the thing, too, that I wish I know a lot of us go out to tailgates and we have a good time when we watch the Bears games. And we don't sit here and really – and not that you guys don't follow the NFL or don't follow it closely, but, like, if you look around the league, like Younghoe Koo, who to me was one of the most automatic kickers in the NFL for some time, is now facing competition in Atlanta because he missed one, including one that would have tied the game against the Buccaneers. You talk about us blowing games. Like no team was happier about the Bears losing that game on Monday night than the Baltimore Ravens. It feels like everybody has forgotten about the Baltimore Ravens, who have dropped some historically bad games. That was one where people were ready to put the Ravens in the Super Bowl. My man Mike Freeman was like, hey, can we call them a juggernaut? At the same time, like, these are things that happen to teams all over the NFL. It's not just the Bears. And I think that is one of the things that I would like to tell everybody is that it doesn't always just happen to us. It happens around the league. It happens to a lot of teams. Hey, if you look at Denver right now, Bo Nix is facing some concerns because even though the Broncos were victorious the other day, Bo Nix did not look great. Drake May did not look great against the Las Vegas Raiders. Guys, like you go out there and you see how it goes. And all right, they've got some questions. If the NFL wasn't in love with Jaden Daniels, there would be some concerns about the way that he played on Sunday, but he was going against the Giants. Everybody loves Jaden. Nobody's ever going to say a bad word about him. But if Caleb had gone out there and played the game that Jaden played against the Giants, people would be like, where's Tyson Bagent? Like, it would have been that kind of thing, but nobody's clamoring for whomever the backup quarterback is in
It's
Washington.
a result-driven business, and as we said, if the Bears had found a way to win, which they should have, and then that's why I respect Kevin Byard today, because he said we all melted down in the fourth quarter. It wasn't just Caleb, wasn't just the run game, wasn't just the offense, wasn't just special teams in Cairo and the block punt. The defense certainly held their part too, and it's hard to be hard on them because they lost all their guys before the game even started, their best players. But ultimately, the run game, they started getting ran all over, and then they gave up 3 touchdowns to J.J. McCarthy. So everybody holds a blame in this fourth quarter collapse. They should have won the game, but had they won, this conversation would be much different. I do have updates for you, Adam, with there's early injury report coming out. Now, obviously, there will be more injury reports as the week goes on. This is the early one, so sometimes you have to be careful about definitive statements off this. But I'll give you the bad news first. Right now, Kyler Gordon and Grady Jarrett did not practice. Kyler was still dealing with the hamstring. It says Grady Jarrett with a knee, although he did finish the game on Monday night, so I wonder what that's all about. But here's the good news. Jalen Johnson, a full participant in practice today. So it sounds like Jalen Johnson should return. TJ Edwards was limited in practice today. So there it is.
Great news.
Should be out there on Sunday against the Lions.
Yeah, our girl Bridget Condon was out there on Monday night from the field, and she texted me before the game, and she's like, I'm watching Jalen Johnson right now. He's trying to warm up. He's trying to give it a go. And I'm like, give me some good news. And then it was like the little bubbles, and then it disappeared. And I'm like, okay. That's all you need to say, Bridget. He's probably not going to play. And then a couple of minutes later, he was ruled inactive for the game. But we'll be checking those injury reports intently on Friday. That is the big one because of Jalen Johnson and trending. Listen, if you're practicing on Wednesday, that's a very good sign. So some good news potentially for the Bears moving forward. Greg, want to thank you so much for being here. What's your schedule like for CHGO the rest of the week?
Well, we've got, obviously our CHGO Bears show tomorrow. We'll recap everything that Caleb Williams said here earlier or just a few minutes ago. This evening, we'll talk about that tomorrow. I think the coordinators speak to the media. Adam Johns and Adam Hogue will be at House Hall covering all of that. So we'll have a show to recap everything from that. And then later tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central, the Brick by Brick podcast with Lance Briggs and Jerry Azuma. We're efforting a special guest for tomorrow night, but I'll save the reveal until we confirm said guest. But it's not Adam Rank, but okay. You are special, and we will bring you on. I promise you that.
Appreciate it. My friend, our friend Captain Scott Winks, is a former bricklayer himself, and he always brings that up. He's like, hey, he's like, hey, Rank, do you know I used to lay bricks like Greg Bragg's there? And I'm like, I know, Scott. Every time we play golf or I see you at the driving range, he's like, hey, I was a bricklayer. We get it. We get it, Scott. No, thank you so much for listening. He actually listens
fraternity.
to
It's a close fraternity going all the way back to when they were built. The Mayans and the Egyptians were building the pyramids. We're all tied together.
You guys are great. Listen, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate everybody else. And, Bobby Nash, Love Bears All, Scottish Bear, Jay, all of you who've been commenting throughout the show. Sorry we try to get as many as possible, but we're sitting here complaining about everything. Really appreciate it. So thanks so much for joining us here this evening. The Sick Podcast with Adam Rank will be back on Friday for our Sunday preview. We're hoping to land Cynthia Freeland in front of this great game against the Detroit Lions. That ought to be a lot of fun. So until that time, bear down. And Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.